welcome back, U.S. History people. We are going to talk about video number 4 today, in which the United States opens up the East. Mr. Lawrence, what area are we talking about when we say the East?
So very often when we're referring to East within American history, we're talking about areas within the Pacific and Asia.
All right, so the United States' role in Asia expanded because of the establishment of trade with China and Japan and the acquisition of Hawaii, Pacific bases, and the Philippines. So a common thread we've talked about so far in this unit is that the United States is expanding overseas, and they're acquiring lots of land in Asia in particular. Before we get to the United States' involvement in China, we need to do a little background on spheres of influence.
All right, so what is a sphere of influence? This is something that you did study last year. Should sound hopefully familiar to you from Global. So it's dividing of a country by other nations to influence trade and culture. It's not an official colony, but it's really exerting your influence as a powerful nation over another area. So you see this very famous political cartoon of the time with these European nations carving up, it looks like almost like a pizza or a pie, and it's carving up China. And it's an example of spheres of influence that were established at the time.
Speaking of pizza, what is your favorite topping?
Oh, I have to go with, I guess I have to go pepperoni, but banana peppers are great too.
Banana peppers, I'm a green olives fan myself. Do us a favor, write down your favorite topping of pizza right now. Okay, so the United States, we notice in here these pictures of these government officials. The United States is not in there. So the United States did not take part in spheres of influence in China, but they were, however, a little worried that they would be shut out from Chinese markets. So the U.S. proposed what's known as the open door policy. And this stated that China should open their doors to the U.S. market. In other words, they should allow the U.S. to come in and trade. Make sure you wrote down your favorite pizza topping if you have not already, please.
So as Mr. Norris said, there was an idea proposed by the United States of open door, this idea where all countries would be able to freely exchange goods with China. And again, remember studying China of the time, they kind of had this ethnocentric idea. They wanted to isolate themselves from the rest of societies. So they weren't really looking to open up to trade. They were concerned about being imperialized. So the United States, really their goal was to open up trade relationships with China and create new markets for trade and avoid colonization. That was the big thing that the United States government wanted to prevent other European powers and even Japan after the Meiji Restoration from going into China and setting up official colonies.
Now, you know from your studies of world history that the Chinese were not very fond of having these Western powers in their countries. So a group forms and resists this imperialism. This is known as the Boxer Rebellion. And this is in which the Chinese revolt to remove European influence from China. But just by examining this picture, we can tell that the Chinese are not going to be successful because they tend to not have as advanced technology as the Europeans. So we see this gentleman here has a spear in his hand, and this European power guy has a rifle in his hand. So the Europeans are able to quell the Boxer Rebellion due to advanced technology.
All right, so let's talk about Japan and the United States. And one guy we need to know is Commodore Perry. So the Perry mission to Japan. And what this was a guy by the name of Matthew Perry was sent by the United States Navy to Japan in an attempt to open up trade relations and create new markets for trade, ultimately ending Japan's isolation. So again, going back to your studies of Global 1, of Global 2, understanding Japanese feudal society was very isolated. Many Western powers, including the United States, wanted to interact with Japan and China and open them up for trade. And here's just two examples of two primary and secondary sources that can come up. At the top, we see a picture of one of the ships of Matthew Perry's fleet that went into Edo Bay, which was Tokyo Bay at the time, and really just kind of making demands on the Japanese, saying that you need to open this up. We can do this peacefully, we can do this friendly, or we can come back with more of these ships and more of these cannons. So it becomes a concern. And there's another picture we'll show you here, a painting of Commodore Matthew Perry being invited into the Japanese court in order to discuss what opening of trade would look like.
I don't see Ross Geller or Joey. How you doing in here? Do you see him anywhere?
I don't. You know what? I'm not seeing him, even though I'm a big Friends fan.
Local history fun fact: Matthew Perry was sent to Japan from President Millard Fillmore, who was from Buffalo. Now, at the time, we know that the U.S. also acquired land. We mentioned briefly Hawaii and Samoa in a previous video, and Hawaii was acquired because of a revolt. And again, this led to annexation by the United States in 1898, the same year as the Spanish-American War. And then when it comes to Samoa, this is a port island that established a trade route between the U.S. and Australia. And this gives the Navy the ability to stop and refuel ships in the South Pacific. Now, Mr. Lawrence, I think you mentioned in previous videos, this is like a gas station. And Samoa really is a gas station for the U.S. Navy.
Absolutely. And out of all this territory that we're seeing here, only one becomes an official state.
True. Hawaii, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, guys, thank you very much. And we'll see you back here for video number 5 when we're going to go over to Latin America. Have a good day.